Hi, welcome to the Andy Ramirez Report, video log 13. In this report, I'm going to take up the issue of illegal immigration and comprehensive immigration reform. Now, first things first, the Senate held hearings late in April 2013 for a bill that's called the Border Security, Economic Opportunity, and Immigration Modernization Act S-744. Or as I call it, the U.S. Immigration Capitulation Act of 2013, aka Shamnesty. Let's stop calling it comprehensive immigration reform, because there is no reform. There are plenty of waivers, in fact a boatload of waivers. There is massive expansion of the programs that will add to our illegal immigration woes, that will add to Americans who will find themselves out of work easily replaced by less qualified individuals, or that will find their jobs cut while a person with a visa will get the job at a lower pay than the American employee had. So this job is about capitulation in immigration, and this job is going to be about a loss of jobs, a further squelching of the economy, and guess what? It's only a matter of time before it blows up in our faces. But you gotta see, with the direction this administration's gone, which is hell-bent beyond even what Junior Bush ever thought of, how worse it's going to be. All the years we had of neocons and globalists, it's gotten worse. Now we have radical socialists in the White House and leading the executive branch. But that's for another time. Let's focus on this garbage legislation. So, the Gang of 8, or traitors as I call them, led by Senator Rubio of Florida. He's supposed to be the person that unifies this as a Hispanic. You know what you call him? I call him a traitor. Along with fellow Republican traitors, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, John McAmnesty of Arizona, who along with his buddy, former Congressman and current Senator Jeff Flake, have really gone out of their way to make this possible, along with the usual suspects from the Democrat Party, led by Senator Schumer of New York, and a cabal of individuals who pretty much are leading us down the toilet quickly to ruin. And when you look at the list of who testified, I've testified myself. You have representatives, 4 panels, and the first 2 were just basically the who's who of the other side. Arturo Rodriguez, president of the United Farm Workers of Keene, California. You have just a cadre of who's who, representing tourism, representing business, representing, hell, even Microsoft had a representative testify. You also had former Congressman Jim Colby, who was served in the Congress from Southeast Arizona. And he tried to turn the debate into one of sexual orientation and unifying on that basis. So now we have not just illegal immigration in that discussion and that debate, but now we have social engineering taking place. You had also an acknowledged, admitted illegal alien who testified. Of course, she's lauded for her courage, and this is now claimed to be a civil rights issue. You have Janet Marguia, who used to appear regularly as a guest of Lou Dobbs when he was at CNN, something that astounded me that I never could understand. I used to have discussions with my own mom about this, and it just never made sense to her. How could you have a person who represents a group that calls itself the race? National Council of La Raza. The translation for La Raza is the race. So how do you have a representative from a group that calls itself the race testifying on the Hill and being lauded as a top-notch civil rights organization? Civil rights? Funny. I've never seen them back anything I've ever done, and you know what? I'm an individual who's disabled, who has overcome many things to do what I've done. I don't see any of them out there talking about disabled Hispanics who've served in our military. You don't see them standing up for the rights of those poor people down in Mexico who remain impoverished and remain enslaved under a corrupt government. She ever protest? She ever appear and say anything publicly against her masters in Mexico City? You damn right she hasn't. Because you know why? They're funding the National Council of the Race. Now imagine this. Imagine if we saw a person representing the Ku Klux Klan or any other so-called racist organization acknowledged and well documented. Then imagine the National Socialist Party and somebody going in there wearing the swastika, wearing SS lightning bolts, wearing a white sheet and hood. Now would they be welcome to speak before the Senate? Because essentially that's what Janet Murguia did. She represents and is president of a group that calls itself The Race. This is how effed up things have gotten in Washington. We welcome illegal aliens and racists to testify. But it's not even that. We had to get through 2 panels and into our 3rd panel before we actually got somebody representing the pro-enforcement side, led by Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach, a gentleman I've testified with alongside during a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing back in 2006. Testifying with him was Mark Krikorian, the executive director for the Center for Immigration Studies. Also testifying in panel 4 was Janice Kephart, one of the counsels for the 9/11 Commission, Stephen Camarota from the Center for Immigration Studies, and president of the National Immigration and Customs Enforcement Council, Chris Crane. And let me tell you, Chris Crane did a bang-up job. I salute him because he said stuff that I would have said. Didn't quite take it as far because there's some areas that, believe me, I've gone much farther. But what he said, I salute you for what you did. Now, on day 2, who did we deal with? Janet Napolitano, the Secretary for Homeland Security herself, got up there. And she got a well-deserved ass-whipping from Senator Jeff Sessions from Alabama. And let me tell you this, it was well-deserved. It should have happened a long time ago. I haven't seen a tail-whipping like that since Senator Sessions took it to Johnny Sutton and woodshedded him old school. And this was in person that I saw this back during a rather now infamous hearing where they got into Sutton's prosecution of Border Patrol agents. Now, it's not just that. It's not just all the rest of the nonsense we've seen taking place in Washington because they are so hell-bent on this. But we have had this debate change to one of it's about civil rights. Really? Does Mexico say it's about civil rights? They have a fence on their southern border. They shoot people who try to enter their country through their southern border. But they denounce us. We're not shooting people unless they shoot first. You know how many cartels and alien smuggling organizations, coyotes, human traffickers shoot at our people? Hell, they shoot them, they rock them, they assault them. Nothing happens to them. Our agents get prosecuted. Does anything happen to the bad guys killing and maiming our people? Hell no. And this has got to stop. This is not about reform. This was never about reform. You don't expand visas and call it reform. You don't add waiver after waiver for a department. They might as well call it the Department of Immigration Waiver because that's all we're seeing coming out of Homeland Security. There is no security where the homeland is concerned. And homeland, we still got to get off of that term. That reeks of Hitler if I've ever heard one. But it's not just that. It's not just the trillions of dollars that Numbers USA is talking about that this is going to cost us ultimately. It's not just the amount of individuals that they're predicting. Keep in mind, everybody's using a number from 2007. In 2007, David Aguilar, then chief of the Border Patrol, when he was appearing at his infamous musters, June 2007, which the Border Patrol Union, National Border Patrol Council, called magic shows, he was touting the number of 12 million illegal aliens and how much he didn't care about them. Well, guess what, folks? That's 6 years ago. They admitted to 12 million 6 years ago. Now, the Mexican government's been using the 20 to 30 million for years. So, let's take these numbers into consideration. The Border Patrol says that they apprehend 1 out of every 4, but their numbers, as we know, are clearly doctored and have long been doctored. We have to then start thinking and pondering, hey, what if it's 1 in 8, 1 in 12, or 1 in 20 apprehended? Legitimate numbers for certain. Now, under that circumstance, given what we knew was 12 million in 2007, imagine what it is 6 years later. And this is just the illegal alien numbers. This isn't even visa overstays. This isn't even what they're talking about from family reunification. This isn't from visas that will never be abided by. People who won't leave. If Numbers USA is talking 50 million, and we're among that is the 12 million number, imagine what that really is. We are in deep shit, and there's no soft soaping it. But on top of that, there's one other aspect to consider. This bill had no participation from the National Association of Former Border Patrol Officers. They didn't have Mr. Crane in there. They didn't have the Border Patrol Union in there. They didn't have Chief Bill King, the sole surviving director who oversaw the last amnesty and pointed out for years the amount of fraud that took place in it. They didn't have me in there. There was no Andy Ramirez sitting in there to argue with the senators, to argue with the administration and say what reforms are truly needed in order to accomplish this. And then we can discuss a guest worker program. They're talking biometrics. They're using secure borders. They're using all these terms and lexicon that are just that. They're there for propaganda purposes, but there is no damn meaning behind them. You know how many plans the DHS has had put together over the past 10 years since their inception that haven't been integrated into the border? Look at the Secure Border Initiative that was filled with absolute fraud, or that infamous project down in Arizona. Now, take a look at a group called the Border Patrol Foundation, and it's led in person by former chiefs Ronnie Colburn and Louis Barker. Now, consider this. Their biggest donors are the very same people from that have defense technology that they sell to the Pentagon, that they get massive contracts out of. Some of these people are the groups that were responsible for the border security and have done nothing for this country. Plans that have been recommended and have never been implemented, because that's not what David Aguilar chose. Project Athena, which I discussed, which was done by Raytheon, which was never going to be done over the objections of the sector chiefs. Instead, we wound up with the Secure Border Initiative. So we've had plans. We've had things done to improve security. Not one thing has ever been implemented. We've spent money on toys. We've spent billions on toys that are ineffective and don't work under certain conditions. We have put together and brought in more agents. Has it done anything? Hell no. Now the borders are being overrun in old school way, with dozens to hundreds crossing and waiting for the Border Patrol because they've been told they're going to get amnesty. And who's telling them this? The Mexican government, our administration, the United States Senate, big business, the National Council of the Race. But back to the drafting. I've been saying this for the longest time. There weren't groups like us in there. No, the National Council of the Race was part of it, and all of these groups who stand to benefit from this crap. But I'll tell you who's not mentioned that they don't mention that I'm certain was there. And those were representatives from the Mexican government, because there's no way this bill wasn't put together without the biggest supporters of illegal immigration behind it. The very people who put a fence and have soldiers trying to stop illegal immigration into their country at the southern border want to open ours up. For what? This is all about money and the trillions of dollars we stand to lose up here that others will benefit from. No, this bullshit needs to be stopped today. That dog does not hunt. This does not pass the smells test, because anything that was drawn by a foreign government that is going to compromise U.S. security, I have a word for that, and it's in the Constitution of the United States. The word is treason. Go and read it, look it up, you'll find it mates. That's it for now. I will be paying attention and getting you more updates as frequently as possible. Stay tuned. I'm Andy Ramirez.